Welcome to Unitarian Universalist Church West on this oddly warm and pleasant Sunday in Brookfield, Wisconsin. We offer gratitude for the privilege of living and gathering on traditional territory inhabited at various times by the native peoples of the Seven Council Fires, Ho-Chunk, Kickapoo, Potawatomi, Menominee, Peoria, and Miami nations. So much of the history of this land has been erased or ignored. Those of us who are settlers and newcomers are beholden to learn that history and engage in the work of reconciliation and reparation. As a welcoming congregation to gay, lesbian, transgender, bisexual, and queer plus peoples, we continue to address ongoing homophobia, violence, and unfair legislation targeting them. As an anti-racist faith community, we also acknowledge that racism throughout our society continues to lead to the violent deaths and oppression of Jews, Black and Indigenous peoples, and other people of color. May we engage in the struggle to dismantle white supremacy culture in our hearts, in our community, and in our world. My name is Stephen White. I serve on your board of trustees. I'm serving in my third year on our board, and as has been the case each year, this year is a bit different than the last. Saying that we're inhabiting a liminal space is an understatement. We're fortunate to have helped ordain a new minister into our UU faith community and welcome her as our leader. At the same time, we're waiting for the other shoe, or maybe it's lots of shoes, to drop when January 20th and our next US president comes our way. So we're holding love and hope, and we're holding our breath. But one thing is clear, that we need to be even more committed to and leaning into our UU values, and not just for each other. Not to be too full of myself or ourselves, but the world, our world, needs us. Our world needs what we and our faith have to offer. I've never been much of an evangelist, but I think this is the time to do just that. Through how we talk, how we act, and what we do. So with that thought in mind, I'm so pleased to be here in community this morning with each of you who also choose to make being together a priority. It matters that we make this choice over and over each week. Your presence improves the experience for others, just as their presence does for you. This congregation expands beyond these walls to those who are joining us virtually. Wherever you are right now, whatever your age or color, whatever your gender identity, whatever your chosen beliefs, whoever you love, you are most welcome here. Welcome newcomers and guests. You are invited to fill out the welcome side of the blue form you received with your order of service, as well as to visit the newcomers table in the community room after the service, where you can ask questions and pick up information. And if you're online and want to connect, please email us at visitor@uucw.org. This is a multi-generational community. All ages are welcome here in the sanctuary. There's a worship exploration table for those who can listen better if their hands are busy. And after the story for all ages, children and youth are invited to go to their programming or remain here with the rest of us. Our weekly announcements are printed and included with your order of service. There's a lot going on, as always. So take them home, refer to them throughout the week, find something to get involved with. I went on a bit this morning, so I'm not going to, there's only one highlight. I just want to let everybody, remind everyone that this coming week there's a UUCW board meeting. November 21st, Thursday at 7 p.m. here at church. Everyone's welcome. You can attend in person or virtually. The link for the Zoom meeting is in the e-news. Now that we have the business of coming together squared away, let's settle in and center ourselves as we enter into this time of attending to matters of worth.
Our call to worship today is from Reverend Julianne Lepp. We seek our place in the world. We seek our place in the world and the answers to our heart's deep questions. As we seek, may our hearts be open to unexpected answers. May we be reminded that all beings are whole, sacred, and worthy. Let our hearts be welcoming of multiple truths, not holding hard or fast to close-mindedness or judgmental thinking. What can we learn from each other in the richness of our differences? May the heart of compassion help us recognize the sacred in each other and bridge differences in these challenging times. May each of us be held in relationship, accountability, and the power of beloved community. Blessed be. Chalice lighting words are from Pat Uribe Lichty, who happened to speak at last August General Assembly. Please read along, and if you are joining us at home, feel free to kindle your candle or chalice. This is a little bit long this time, but as usual, we'll hang in there together. We come from many places, along different paths, bringing different truths. We come with different histories and different realities, and yet we come together as one people, with faith that we can use our differences to heal ourselves and each other, to bring wholeness to a fractured world. We come seeking to find community, to find acceptance of who we are. In this place, we may find others who are much like us, and others who are much different. May our lit chalice remind us that we are a people taught by different stories, with many voices, but always one people, working for a world where love creates justice and justice gives birth to peace. Let's rise in body and/or spirit and sing hymn number 340, Though Gathered Here to Celebrate.
Good morning. I'm Dave Cicero, Director of Lifespan Religious Education here at UUCW, and we do have some room up front if anyone wants to come a little closer to see the pictures. There's some cushions on the floor here. My pronouns are he and his. And let's see. I'm going to start with a question. Have you ever met someone who didn't fit your ideas or knowledge about how people should be, or how they are, or how they should act? And when that happens, think about, what's your first thought? Is it to judge them based on what you expect, or do you ask them questions so you can understand where they might be coming from? Our story today is kind of ask that question too. It's called The Suitcase. It's written and illustrated by Chris Naylor Ballesteros and published by Nosy Crow. A strange animal arrived one day, looking dusty, tired, sad, and even frightened. He was pulling a big suitcase. Hey, hi there. What's in your suitcase? My suitcase? Well, there's a teacup. A teacup? Well, that's a big suitcase for a little teacup. Yeah, I suppose it is. But there's a table for my teacup and a wooden chair for me to sit on, too. There's a table and a chair in your suitcase? Impossible. Well, it's his suitcase. But a table and a chair? Really? Yes. So I'm going to ask you right now, do you believe this strange animal that's showed up? And I'm going to pay attention to that yellow critter, too. I kind of like what the yellow critter has to say. Kind of our voice of conscience, I think. our strange animal, our stranger continues. And there's a little kitchen in a wooden cabin where I make my tea, and that's my home. It's on a hillside, surrounded by trees. On a clear day, you can see the sea. It's all there in my suitcase. But I'm sorry, I'm really tired, very tired. I've been traveling for a long time and come a long way. I must have a little rest. What a strange animal. I've never seen anything like him before. Neither have I, but we really should let him sleep for a while. Well, I don't trust him. How do we know he's telling the truth? There's only one way to find out. Someone passed me a big rock. We're going to break that open that suitcase and see what's inside. Maybe we should. We need to know the truth. Well, you can't do that. It's not ours. But no time at all, the suitcase was open. See, a broken teacup and an old photograph. He lied to us. Well, no, he did say there was a teacup. Yes, and now his suitcase is broken too. What will he think of us? Meanwhile, the sleeping stranger dreamed about running away and hiding, about climbing over mountains, swimming across deep waters. I mean, who could have imagined everything this stranger has been through, right? He dreamed about his suitcase and all he had inside it. When he finally woke up, he couldn't believe what the other animals had done. I'm sorry I broke your suitcase. We fixed it as best we could. And we've been busy while you were sleeping. We hope you like it. Well, thank you, actually. It's perfect. There's just one tiny problem. We're going to need more teacups. And that is the end. I think our stranger was very generous, wasn't he? To want to be friends with this group that didn't trust him and his story. Broke his suitcase open just to see if he was telling the truth or not. So when we goof up and we guess wrong about somebody, we usually feel pretty bad about it. And it's not impossible to make up with that person, but it is harder than if we had started out by trusting them in the first place. I wonder how many of us can trust that other people are telling us the truth, their truth. And if we can't, I wonder what brought us to the point that that's become so hard to do. And as we ponder that, I forgot to invite someone to light our lantern, so I'll go get that and ask those children and youth, K through 8th grade, going to the religious education classes, to follow me out of the sanctuary, and I will begin to lead us, the rest of us, in singing our children's recessional once the lantern is lit. So if you're coming with, follow me.
We enter now a time for sharing of joys and concerns and gratitudes that touch our individual lives. One way to express through ritual the many ways that we touch and are touched by each other. In a moment, you'll be invited to come to the mic to share aloud. If you have something you'd rather not share aloud, you can use the QR code on the order of service or the share side of the blue slip to put something in writing. Raise your hand if you need a pen or pencil. And at any time during the week, you can use the link in the e-news to let us know what's on your heart. Remember that what you share is only for the ears of those gathered now. It will not be in the posted video of the service or shared in our e-news. So now come to the mic to speak or raise your hand and an usher will bring you a mic. I'll light a candle for you, and after each sharing, I invite you to all respond with me. We hold you in love.
Our reading for today is an excerpt from On Repentance and Repair by Danya Rutenberg. According to Maimonides, a person doesn't just get to mess up, mumble sorry, and get on with it. They're not entitled to forgiveness if they haven't done the work of repair. And they're not necessarily entitled to forgiveness even if they have. Another human being's suffering is not magically erased because the person who caused it says that they didn't mean to do it. This is true in our personal lives, and it's also true of politicians caught saying racist things, celebrities named as sexual abusers, human resources departments that cover up employee complaints, and governments perpetrating harm against individuals or groups. Fixing damage involves taking specific steps. There's a process. We can't ever undo what happened, but we can transform the situation and ourselves.
Please join us in hymn number 17, Every Night and Every Morn.
Every night and every morn, some to misery are born. Every morn and every night, some are born to sweet delight. Joy and woe are woven fine, clothing for the soul divine. Under every grief and pine runs a joy with silk entwined. It is right, it should be so. We were made for joy and woe, and when this we rightly know, safely through the world we go.
We who are Unitarian Universalists not only affirm the inherent worth and dignity of every person, we also affirm the inherent wholeness of being despite inherent brokenness. No one reading these words is a stranger to pain or the knowledge that things break down, promises, friendships, sobriety, hope, communication. This breaking happens because our human hearts and our very institutions are frail and imperfect. We make mistakes, life is messy, brokenness happens. We're intimately acquainted with brokenness, then, even as we believe no matter how fractured we are or once were, we can make whole of ourselves. We are whole at our core because the great, unnameable, sometimes inconceivable love which we are. As you use, we believe paying attention to something is an act of love. Willingness and naming brokenness is how we begin to heal it. Some sorrows need to be named out loud. My sister died. My body's fragile. I'm scared I won't be able to pay rent this month. The streets of my city are filled with violence. Healing begins when we examine what is pain, wonder how it occurred, and allow it to teach us. In fact, sometimes brokenness is immense, and the only grasp, the only power we have over that large and complicated pain looming over us is to bear witness, to tell its story, to speak out, companions and helpers who are willing to agree with us that yes, there is something breaking or messy in front of us, and we will not leave or even look away until repair has begun. If love begins with attention, repair takes the form of compassion, bearing witness, speaking out. Repair looks like connection, justice, or even revolution. It looks like after-school tutoring programs, community meals, and holding signs in front of City Hall. And it begins by placing full trust and faith that there is inherent wholeness in every broken situation.
The sermon that I'm about to read was written in first person, but just to be clear, Judgment-Free Zone was written by the Reverend Laura Horton-Ludwig. I want to share a true story about our Soul Matters theme this month of repair. This story starts with one person judging another very harshly. But it doesn't end there. The story ends with insight, compassion, and a commitment to repair the relationship, with some lessons for all of us along the way. Here's how it begins. Back in 2020, a guy wrote in to Carolyn Hax's advice column in the Washington Post. He and his wife, both lawyers, had been working at home since the pandemic started. Now that they didn't have to commute, they had some free time on their hands. This is what the guy wrote. We promised each other that we would use that time to be productive in ways our prior schedules did not permit. In the past 6 months, I have kept my end of the bargain. I have read 25 biographies, developed decent conversational skills in 2 foreign languages, upped my running program to the point that I am marathon ready, and started volunteering about 10 hours a week for voter registration advocacy, all while continuing to work at my full-time job. My wife has not done so well. She has generally used the time to unwind. I have confronted her several times, and she tells me she is rejecting productivity culture and that she doesn't feel like improving herself right now. I'm getting increasingly frustrated, disgusted even, that she would waste this gift of free time. Do you have any suggestions other than divorce? When I first saw this letter, I was outraged. How dare he judge his wife for taking How dare he judge his wife like that for taking care of herself? Let him keep learning foreign languages and running marathons if he's so into it. That was my knee-jerk negative reaction. Lo and behold, he wrote back to the advice column a few weeks later and with an update that surprised me greatly. He wrote that he had indeed asked his wife for a divorce. And then, sadly, both his parents passed away of COVID. He wrote, "Despite the way I had treated her, my wife was completely there for me with unconditional support, and I asked her to reconsider the divorce. She agreed, but only if I promised to complete a course of individual therapy to figure out why I had been acting so mean and judgmental. We uncovered a lot of issues from my childhood, notably that my parents equated not being the best with worthlessness. Even more so, they believed that life was something to be suffered through with grim determination, and that enjoying oneself was almost always inappropriate. For example, when I was 12, I woke up one day to find my beloved piano had been sold because I was having too much fun and treating it like a toy. Similarly, I was forced to switch from soccer to track in high school because I wasn't good enough at soccer to be a starter, even though I loved being part of the team. This all resulted in my being incredibly critical and also jealous of people who could simply find joy in things, hence my treatment of my wife, as well as a tendency to pursue activities I didn't like due to a fear that I would otherwise be bad. He concluded, I will certainly be making amends for years to come, but actually feel happy and hopeful now. I am just sorry I wasted so many years and caused so much pain in the process. Wow. As Mr. Rogers once said, there isn't anyone you couldn't learn to love once you've heard their story. And this man's story is full of lessons for all of us who struggle with being judgmental about other people and want to get better at repairing our relationships when we miss the mark. Here are the big takeaways I want to offer you. First, we don't know the whole story about anyone else. Second, often what we judge most harshly in others is really a longing or an unmet need in ourselves. Third, setting our own boundaries helps us let go of judgment. Let's take them one by one. First, we do not know the whole story about anyone else. When I heard the first part of this man's story, I got so triggered that I completely forgot to ask, wow, I wonder what made him so focused on accomplishing things. I completely forgot that I knew only a tiny sliver of his story. When you're feeling judgmental about someone else's behavior, please learn from my mistake. And remember, you don't know the whole story of how that person got to be the way they are today. When I heard the second part of that lawyer's story, I was so moved. I had been so wrong about what was driving his pushy, judgy behavior. This was someone who had been emotionally abused as a child by parents who may well have experienced the same kind of abuse when they were little, too. For me to say, that guy's a jerk, fell so short of the complicated, poignant reality of his life, and indeed, it just replicated more of the emotional violence he'd grown up with. I'm grateful to have been reminded there isn't anyone you couldn't learn to love once you've heard their story. And isn't that the foundation of our Unitarian Universalist faith? That all of us are held in love. That if we could only know each other deeply enough, we could not help but love one another. So that's the first practice. You don't know the whole story. Get curious. Once you know more, chances are you will find so much compassion in yourself that you can't help but start the process of repair. Now, the second takeaway. Often, what we judge most harshly in others is really a longing or an unmet need in ourselves. In the lawyer's case, he had been a kid who loved to play the piano and play soccer just for fun. But out of his parents' own wounding, they taught this kid that it was wrong and bad. And so the adult became very critical and secretly jealous of anyone who could just relax and enjoy life. To repair his relationship with his wife, he needed to rediscover that part of himself that longed to relax and rest and have fun. So when you find yourself getting judgmental about someone else and their way of doing things, I encourage you to remember this story. Ask yourself, what exactly is pushing my buttons? And then ask yourself the magic question, whatever that thing is that's pushing my buttons, is that something I wish I could do? Only I'm not letting myself do it. Maybe not, but maybe so. Whenever that does ring true, we all have an obligation to practice relationship repair by walking back our judgments and focus on tending to the unmet needs in our own hearts. Which leads us to the third takeaway from the lawyer's story. Setting our own boundaries helps us let go of judgment. I am so impressed with the behavior of the lawyer's wife in this story. When she said to her husband, "Yes, I will stay in this marriage if you can figure out why you've been acting so judgmental," she was setting a very important boundary. Instead of getting caught up in judging her husband, she was clear with him what her needs were. She was clear that his behavior toward her was harmful and it needed to stop, or she would not stay in the relationship anymore. That's not judging, it's setting a boundary to take care of yourself. And it's a gift to the other person because it lets them know what you need. It's setting them up for success by helping them understand what repair looks like to you. So, how can we put this into practice? I remember once I had a friend who really wanted me to get involved with this project they were doing. I didn't want to do it. Long story, the details don't matter. The main point is they kept asking, and I started to get frustrated with them. I had pretty judgmental thoughts in my head about them, like, ugh, why do you keep bugging me? They're so annoying and pushy. But finally, I realized I had never clearly said no. I had given them some wishy-washy, maybe, we'll see, types of responses, but I had not been clear with them. In my head, I was angry at them, but I'd never given them a chance to fix the problem. Instead, I was the one who was driving us apart, which meant that I was the only one who could fix it. So I finally sat down with them and said, look, I know you want me to do this, but I'm not going to. I'm just not. It was such a relief to set that boundary. Our friendship got back on track, and now I can even look back with admiration for how strong an advocate they were for the things they cared about. Now to recap once more. When you're feeling judgmental, try clarifying your boundaries instead. Remember that your judgmental feelings may be masking an unmet need in you. And never forget, you don't know the whole story about another person and what makes them act the way they do. If you did, you couldn't help but understand and maybe even to love them. So go forth and practice repair by letting go of judgment. Our personal relationships need it, and our world needs it. One small step at a time, this is how we learn to understand more, to love better, and repair all that is still broken in the world. May it be so. Amen.
Our Split the Plate program is one of outreach and generosity. Each month, we give half of all undesignated offerings to a nonprofit organization to help us live our Unitarian Universalist values, pursue the goal of social justice, and serve our community. Our partner for November is Dry Hooch. Unfortunately, addiction is all too often a reality for those who have served our country in uniform and have PTSD. Post-traumatic stress disorder. A tour of duty in a conflict zone is an important mission and one proudly served, but afterward, coming back to civilian life can feel like a strange country. Dry Hooch was founded by soldiers for soldiers who had been there and know how to help. Here's a video highlighting the supporting community of Dry Hooch.
Welcome to Dry Hooch of America, a veterans grassroots organization built on the foundation of peer support. Although we haven't been around as long as Waterstone Bank, we too believe in the power of community.
Our focus is building a better future for our valiant and selfless veterans and their families. This future will encompass a community that is accepting and supportive and carries on well beyond the welcome home ceremonies, continuing for a lifetime.
Dry Hooch is a safe, substance-free environment where veterans can come to build relationships and reignite the camaraderie that is often lost after service.
As Waterstone seeks to continue supporting organizations that are rooted in the community, the road converges at Dry Hooch,
Dry Hooch.
helping veterans and their families who survived the war.
Survive the peace.
You can support Dry Hooch with your contribution. Go to the UUCW website's Donate tab and select Split the Plate from the menu provided, or you can text or email your donation using the information found here. We thank you most sincerely for your support.
Thank you. Let's recite the offering dedication. To the work of this community, which is to ground ourselves in love and joy, and to act for inclusion and justice, we dedicate ourselves and these, our offerings. Now please rise in body or spirit, and we'll sing hymn number 108, My Life Flows On in Endless Song.
My life flows on in endless song.
Today's words of benediction are from author and Unitarian minister, Reverend Carl Seberg. Between the dawn and dusk of our being, let us be brave and loving. In our little passage through the light, let us sustain and forward the human venture in gentleness, in service, and in thought. Amen.